Let's move away from lies and fears.
Perhaps it's time to leave.
Free from how you look or what they say. Like a lion runs wild through the wilderness. Free from showing off a living fate. Like the eagles flying high, dancing with the air. There's breath in your lungs to breathe. Say, God, take this mask away. You see, he won't let you stay. Living in hollow days.
Hey guys, welcome to Shattercast. My name is Derek, and I am here with
Hannah
and
John.
All right, cool. We are flipping the script today because we get to interview our usual host, John, because John went to a really cool place that we didn't get a chance to go, but we want to kind of chat about it and just talk about it. So, John, where'd you go?
I went to Applebee's and I had a delicious cheeseburger. No, I went to PAX South.
I can't remember the last time I was in an Apple.
I think it's been at least 10 years.
They got good riblets there.
So I went to PAX South in San Antonio, Texas, near the end of January.
Awesome, cool. Now, not everyone here has heard of PAX, probably. Maybe. I'm not sure. What is PAX?
So think of PAX like Comic-Con, but smaller, significantly smaller, as far as attendance goes. It's not
You just hurt the PAX guy.
I probably did a little bit. I'm sorry. It's not bad at all. It was a fantastic time. I had a great time. So it's called PAX, PAX, because it started in 2004 as the Penny Arcade Expo. The Penny Arcade is a webcomic. It's still going today. And the creators of the webcomic created the PAX convention, the Penny Arcade Expo, because they wanted a convention that catered specifically to gaming. So video games, tabletop games, board games. And that's what they did. So they created the Penny Arcade Expo in 2004. That is now what they call PAX Prime. It's in Seattle. There's a PAX East in Boston, PAX South in Texas. There's a couple others. I know there's one in Australia.
PAX Australia and PAX Unplugged.
Unplugged.
And Philadelphia. Yeah.
Philadelphia, there you go.
Very cool.
So it's pretty good. It was a lot of fun.
Very cool. Now, I've actually been to PAX East in Boston. It was a lot of fun. Haven't been to PAX South, and as you said, it's exploding all over the world now. Why do you think PAX is so popular now?
I think because it does exactly what the creators wanted it to do. It caters specifically to gaming. Now, if you go to Comic-Con, you're going to see a lot of celebrities, a lot of awesome things. I mean, especially if you go to the original Comic-Con out in San Diego, you're going to see a lot of people from the movie industry, the TV industry, from video games, from comic books. You're getting just about every form of entertainment there is, whereas PAX is specifically games. And so a lot of the gaming community, they go there because they're there to play games, to play test games, to find out what new games are coming out. At PAX East and PAX Prime especially, they do a lot of announcements where they do big reveals of new content. At PAX South, I was able to see a live game of Acquisitions Inc., where they announced an official module coming out with Wizards of the Coast. And so they like doing big reveals at these conventions that are specifically catered to gamers.
You mentioned before that one of the things available is playtesting games. You playtested some games while you were there, right?
A few games. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, they. So PAX South is the youngest of the PAX conventions, as far as I'm aware.
It's a little baby brother.
It is. It is. The expo hall was. It was your average convention hall size, but it was basically just the one room. There weren't several levels to it. There weren't a ton of breakout rooms like you would see at the other PAX conventions, because this one's still growing. But the expo hall had this really cool area of indie board gaming. PlayStation 4 had a booth. Interestingly enough, Discord had a very large section. Discord had like the largest booth in the expo hall. It was massive. And if you're not familiar with Discord, it's a digital sort of communication service that a lot of gamers use these days when they're playing online. When I played MMOs way back in the day, I used a service called Vent or Ventrilo, and Discord has kind of taken the place of that. So if you're familiar with Vent but not Discord, it's basically like Vent.
Now you know.
Now you know. And the more you know, knowing is half the battle.
We need a little star to fly across the screen.
But she asked me a question about playtesting games. There was one specific game that I got super hyped for that I'd never heard of. I'd never heard of the studio or anything. The game is called Omen Sight, one word. I played it on the PlayStation 4, and I've got some footage of that. It's probably rolling right now, but the combat was really fun. It was very intuitive. I felt like I was mowing down bad guys like crazy. I learned a lot of the powers very quickly, and everything flowed very smoothly until I got to the boss battle and got my butt kicked completely. It was just, I did not do well in that fight, and so it was a good experience of seeing how easily I could pick up the game, but it would take time to get good at it. You know, it's easy to learn, hard to master, which I think is very attractive for me in a game. I want a game that I can pick up quickly, but that I actually have to invest time in to be very good at.
What other games did you play that kind of really stuck out to you?
We played a lot. That's like the whole point of going to PAX and going to the expo hall. So there's a lot of games, probably hopefully seeing more footage on the screen right now. I can't remember the name of it, but we played a game on the Nintendo Switch where you go around and you're fighting like zombies, and then it was very much like a sort of a Minecraft meets Mario kind of feel, which is weird to describe, but I promise you when you see it you'll agree.
Sure.
So like
That was on the Switch?
that was on the Nintendo Switch, yeah. And when you would defeat an enemy, they might like drop their head as like this little square that's sort of bobbing on the ground, like if you're playing Minecraft and you break a block and it's just kind of floating there. You have like this little tiny head that's floating there, and you can actually put it on. And I think it makes you like less likely to get attacked by other zombies because they think you're a friend.
Like in Walking Dead.
Like
Covered themselves with guns.
But this is more geared towards kids,
Yeah.
less graphic than smearing zombie guts on your body.
Don't do that one.
If you find a zombie, actually let us know.
No, look. Call 911.
Call 911 first.
911 first, Shattercast second. Unless you're a kid, then parents second, Shattercast third.
We have just gone through the stereo of if you are finding a zombie. See, this is why you watch this podcast.
I have a cold, I apologize if I cough a lot. Played a lot of games. I am blanking on a lot of the names right now, but hopefully at this point you've seen footage of several different games that we played while we were there. A lot of co-op games. Because it's the smallest of the conventions, there's actually a lot more indie developers there than there are main developers. Like Blizzard, Activision, Bungie, BioWare, they weren't there. They didn't even have booths. But what we did have instead of that were a lot of games that you see on Kickstarter, a lot of games on the Steam store. 7 Days to Die had stuff, Hello Neighbor, Days Gone, which is an up-and-coming zombie survival game that basically you have a limited number of amount of time to build your defenses, and then literal hordes of zombies start chasing you around the map. And so there's a lot of these things where, like, you know how when you're on Reddit or you're just surfing YouTube or something, you come across a clip of, oh, this looks like a neat game that's on Steam for like $20 and I've never heard of it before. A lot of those developers were the kind of people that we saw at PAX South. And so it was really cool to see games that weren't necessarily mainstream that I necessarily already know a lot about. Like if BioWare had been there and I heard a lot about Anthem, it would have been neat, but I feel like I already know a lot about Anthem. So it was really exciting to get to see a lot of these developers that I wasn't hearing about.
It's really cool that indie developers have a place that they can go to kind of show their game and get that exposure, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the atmosphere? How's like the community feel of it? It's the smallest PAX so far. So how is it interacting with people? Are people excited?
Yeah.
Friendly? How'd it go?
It was a mix of all the above. There was a little bit of cosplay, not a lot, just because, again, I think it's the smaller convention. When I say smaller, in 2015, 60,000 people went to PAX South. Okay, so it's small, but small is a relative term, right? I've been in towns with far less than 60,000 people in residence, and so it definitely wasn't small objectively, just compared to other conventions. And so there wasn't a lot of cosplay. There were a few, and the few that I saw were incredible. There were some people. There's a game that I picked up on a website called Humble Bundle. If you're not familiar with that, they have great deals, especially linked to Steam, called Slay the Spire. It's like a deck building game, but also a dungeon crawler. And I saw people there actually cosplaying some of the characters you can play in this game. And this isn't like a big mainstream game, so it was like, it felt like when I saw that, I was like, I have like this information that I share with this person that the wider community doesn't know about. And so it felt like a moment that I could have, like, I know who you are. You're Silent from Slay the Spire, and that's so cool.
Someone finally gets me.
Exactly, and I know that if I had cosplayed that kind of a character, it would be really cool to have someone come up and know about this game that's not crazy popular. And so it definitely felt more relational, more familial. And the nice thing about it being the smaller of the conventions, I say that in quotations, is the expo hall, as packed as it was, I could still move. But if you've ever been to a large convention, like we're talking Comic-Con or PAX East, I know you've been there. When you're walking around, you're like a sardine. And anytime you want to, like, even in like the main walkways in between where booths are, it's packed with people, and you're just like slowly kind of inching your way across. And there were only a couple times, and it was mostly on Saturday, which was the most popular day, where it felt like that, and it was only in certain areas, very congested areas. And so I felt very mobile, like I could get around. The other thing is, aside from just being about video games, I really enjoyed some of the vendors that they had. They had a lot of vendors for tabletop games. If you're familiar with Wormwood Gaming, they're sort of a, I would say, what's the word? Like, not exclusive, but like higher end of tabletop game supplier. They have tables that they handcraft, that they specifically designed for people playing different role-playing games, and the base cost starts at $5,000. But the ingenuity and the engineering of them are incredible. Like, the table has the center of it has a crank that lowers it down, so you can have like a playing mat there, but it also lifts it back up, and there's a cover, so you can use it as your regular dining room table. And when you want to game, you take this big wooden plank off of it. The crank, which sticks out from the side of the table, is magnetic, and you can pop it off the table, so you don't have a kid at 4 years old run into a metal crank. They have cup holders. It does. They have cup holders attached to the sides of the table, and the exact same thing there. They're magnetic, so when you're not playing, you can remove them, you can toss them into the table, and put the cover on top, and it functions as your normal dining room table. But also, they're a bunch of gamers, right? So they built a table for people like them. What would they look for? And there were a lot of vendors like that there who had supplies and practical things that would improve your gaming experience.
Now, going back more to the community side of things and seeing people that love what you love, you also got to experience some of the fun communities being part of the audience at the Acquisitions Inc. show. Can you give us a little bit of that experience?
Yeah, so Acquisitions Inc. started with Penny Arcade, and so PAX, whenever there's a PAX convention, Acquisitions Inc. is there. It's if you're not familiar, it's a campaign set in a Dungeons and Dragons setting, and they have actually several groups of people who play in this same world that's been created. So you have like the A team, the B team, and the C team. I was really excited. We got to see the A team. A team. And so you had characters like, and they have the worst names, like Jim Dark Magic, which is like, it's like the most cliche name, right?
So original.
Yeah, but it's really fun, right? And the guy whose character is Jim, he really knows how to pander to an audience, and he, like, there's a lot of audience participation. There's a lot of cues where like something will happen and everyone in the audience, if they've been watching Acquisitions Inc., they know, oh, this is when we shout this word. And so sometimes the camera would cut to the audience and you'd see everyone like shout a word all at the same time. And so it felt like you were the audience, but you're also playing a part in it as well. And so that felt really great. I think the auditorium sat like 3,000 to 5,000 people and it was packed.
Wow.
And so it was really cool to just be in a room with all of these people enjoying this experience of a bunch of nerds on stage playing a game that they love. So that was a lot of fun. I remember the room was completely pitch black. The projector kicks on and they're running through announcements and you're like, oh, it's about to start. This is like when you're at a movie theater and the trailers start playing and you're like, okay, they're going through announcements, it's about to start. And then the announcements cut and then the narrator says like, welcome to Acquisitions Inc. And the crowd went crazy. I have footage of that and I hope you're about to hear it right now.
Welcome to Acquisitions Incorporated.
It was amazing seeing just the electricity in the room, everyone being so excited about that, sharing that experience, sort of that shoulder to shoulder, enjoying something we all love.
Awesome. Sounds like you had a lot of fun at PAX. Was there anything that you would want to see change for next year, or things that weren't the best that you'd like to see a little different?
That's a great question. I would say, as much as I enjoyed getting a chance to see a lot of indie developers there, I would love to see some of the bigger names. Sony's booth was smaller than Discord's booth, which was interesting to me.
Sony, step your game up.
Microsoft really didn't have much of a presence in the way of Xbox. There was some PC stuff there, but Xbox really didn't have a lot going on. You didn't have a lot, like I said, Bungie, Activision Blizzard, BioWare, they weren't really there. So I'd love to see them there, but not at the expense of losing the indie developers. Because I think that they deserve a place at the conventions and they need to be celebrated. Because a lot of their content was incredible. The majority of what I enjoyed at PAX was the indie content. And so it shows you that people outside of these mainstream studios can create very high quality products, and we should be celebrating that and encouraging that. And so I'd love to see a lot more of the big names like we get at PAX Prime or PAX East, but not at the expense of losing the indie developers. I'd say that's probably the biggest thing.
Awesome, very cool. So we're about to get ready to wrap up. One last big thing for you is at Shatter, we love to talk about geeky stuff, but also highlight some faith aspects. So you hopped on a plane with some of your friends, you went down to PAX South, attended this convention. Some people would be like, why are you doing all that for a gaming convention? What would you say to them? And how did you maybe see your faith play out with all that as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. In sort of evangelical circles, I think people get very specific in how they feel different resources should be managed, right? So if you think about it objectively, going from Florida to Texas, you've got a plane ticket, which I will say I booked on Frontier. This is the first time I've ever flown on Frontier, and it's the cheapest airline ticket I've ever bought.
He made it back, y'all.
I did, I survived. The plane didn't fall apart, thank God. But I mean, there's an expense there with the ticket, with luggage, the hotel stay, the convention fee itself, which actually was extremely affordable. The 3-day pass was $100 plus tax. I know it's a lot of money, but as far as conventions go, that's actually not bad at all. It's an extremely fair price. And so we're talking several $100s to basically go and play video games for a weekend with some of my friends. And that's a fair question. And I think a lot of people would say, well, why not just give $300 to help homeless people in, the greater Orlando area, or to this ministry or that ministry, or, what good could you have done for the kingdom if you had just sown that money instead of gone to a convention? And to them, I would say, and I hope that the people listening are listening when I say this, there are unreached people everywhere. There are unreached people here in Orlando where we live. There are unreached people in the United States. One of the best churches I ever attended, when you drove off their property, there was a sign that said, "You are now entering the mission field." The mission field is not Africa, it's not Eurasia, it's not Russia. The mission field is everywhere because there are unreached people everywhere. And so going to the convention, I was able to do what Christ did, which is make relationships, because people matter. And those people, the people that I encountered at PAX, some of them were Christians, some of them weren't. Derek, I know you've had this experience at some gaming stores that you've been to here in Orlando. There are people that will go to PAX that will never step foot inside a church. And I have the opportunity to be a Christian that they have met that is a good influence for them. And so it's an opportunity to enjoy what we enjoy in a way that we can also reach people. But at the same time, I think God wants us to enjoy life. He doesn't just want us to, sit and worry, are we doing enough? Are we good enough? Are we making enough of a difference? So many times the Bible says, do not worry. One of the best ways to do that is to relax. In Psalm 23, it says that he leads me beside the still waters, to green pastures. He set aside an entire day out of the week for resting. One of the commandments is to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. God values strongly rest. And rest looks different for a lot of people. That was one of the most resting things I've ever done, spending 3 days just enjoying one of my favorite hobbies with some of my closest friends. And I think that makes God happy. That not only was I able to interact with people who otherwise might have had bad interactions with Christians, but it was a very resting, relaxing time where I felt recharged and refreshed, except for the fact that immediately after landing back in Florida, I have a cold.
Convention flu. It's a real thing, guys.
Yeah, that's my answer.
That's awesome. I think that's a great answer. I think you hit a bunch of really cool stuff. First off, just God enjoys relationships. So just you being able to spend time with some of your best friends, just hanging out, I think is important to God. Second, it is a missions field. I remember being at a Comic-Con, comic book convention, for you guys who don't know the lingo, and I remember just sitting there and just watching all these people walking by in cosplay. And I was like, the church doesn't even know these people are out here. What are we doing to talk and reach out to them? And so I think that's a great thing. In the Bible, Jesus so many times went to people's houses and had dinner with them. I think in today's age, the gaming table is our new dining table where we can gather people around and just share life and get to know about them. And I really believe that, especially as Christians, we have to earn people's respect. What I mean by that is people want to care or want to know first how much you care about them before they care about the God you serve. And so I think it's really great that you did that. And last huge thing, I love how you talk so much about indie developers using their gifts and people who make tables and make all these games. They put a lot of work into that, and it's cool to go and celebrate that. A lot of times at Shatter, we get to talk to students at schools and stuff. And one of the things I love to remind them is 1 Peter 4:10-12. It says, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it says, what are you good at doing? I don't care if it's speaking or singing or skateboarding or comic books or gaming. Whatever you do, do it well. And do it to serve others, and do it to glorify God. So I think that's a really cool reminder for us with that.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, cool. Any last things for John before we let him off the hook?
I don't know. I think he needs to go rest from that cold.
Yeah, I do.
Says his wife.
I'm free. I'm free, right?
Yeah, you're free. Good job. Thanks, John.
Oh.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
From how you look, or what they say, like a lion runs wild through the wilderness. From showing off a living faith, like the eagles flying high, dancing with the air. There's breath in your lungs,
There's breath in your lungs to
God, take
breathe.
this mask away.